If you don't know, there are these fake Windows startup and shutdown sounds in the 8/8 point. One startup sounds are actually Windows 7 startup sound. Don't believe me? Well, in 8/8 110, you first go to Control Panel, and go to Hardware and Sound and select Power Options, select Change Settings that are currently unavailable and uncheck Turn on Fast Startup, recommended, and then go to Change System Sounds and select Play Windows Startup Sound and Restart, and you will hear the Windows Vista /7 startup sound.
The team was porting Windows to ARM processors, and my team had started to design a touch-first tablet user interface, one which initially was totally separate and designed for different devices than classic Windows. I had an experience around this time with my MacBook Pro. It was late at night, we had a new baby, and it was my turn to get up in the middle of the night with her. I really wanted to start up my laptop to browse the web, but I couldn't remember if the volume was muted or not. I realized I had a 50-50 chance of pressing the power button and hearing that loud, resonant C major startup chime, waking up my sleeping wife and groggy infant, and that I had no way to control it. I opted just to keep my laptop closed rather than risk it. And at that moment, I had a flash of insight that having devices play a startup sound was a really bad feature for a device designed to be used in a person's most private and intimate spaces at any time of day or night. So I had my team remove the startup sound from Windows 8. Matthew Bennett, the sound designer who was creating these sounds, didn't know the startup sound had been removed. And so one day, as I prepped for our weekly sound review, I saw that the agenda included reviewing candidates for a new startup sound. I didn't say anything about it at the meeting, but there was one sound we thought was really good, and we agreed upon a set of alterations and variations we wanted to hear the next week. And within a month, we had a startup sound that we thought was great. At that point, I had come around to thinking that there might be other solutions to the problem of not waking people up in the middle of the night with a sound, like allowing you to mute on startup, or using the ambient light sensor, or making it at least an option for people to turn it on. It's worth noting that Apple themselves removed the startup sound in 2016 and only brought it back as an option in macOS 11. So we weren't the only ones to have reconsidered the place of startup sounds in the modern world. Anyway, I started down the path of getting the startup sound added back. But at this point, we were in the last 6 months before a first public release. And I called a meeting with the VP in charge of the Windows Fundamentals team to let him know we were adding back the sound. Now, the fundamentals team always had a difficult job, but for Windows 8, it was especially tough. Porting Windows to ARM was hard, and making an ARM-based tablet really work meant speeding up boot times, which were measured in minutes early in the porting process, and drastically reducing memory used. The main way they achieved both of these goals was by just not running a bunch of code that used to run in the startup process. Some of this code was delayed and run later, after the user interface was loaded, and other things were either combined into a single process or launched on demand. Well, it turns out that one of the optimizations the team gratefully made when I originally killed the startup sound was ripping out all of the code that loaded the sound into memory, along with all the code that supported the audio stack early in the boot process. When I told them I wanted to put the sound back, they resisted. Having it on by default meant adding almost a second to the boot process and tens of megabytes of memory used. They were already fighting hard and squeezing every ounce of performance they could, trying to meet their boot time and memory usage goals, and they were not excited about having to go backwards just to play a few notes out of the speaker. Drumroll, please. Without further ado, may I present for the very first time the missing Windows 8 startup sound. Let's hear that one more time.